Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 44 based on novel. So let's start. Liu Dao's group gazed at the young man who had appeared in the sky. Their expressions changed a little when they felt the cruel aura that surged from the latter's body. Their hearts were already a little uncertain despite daring to attack Ying Xiaoxiao. After all, Dao sect was one of the 8 super sects of Eastern Xian region. For them, it was undoubtedly a true titan. Although someone with nothing to lose would emerge victorious in a fight, if Dao sect was angered, their fury was clearly not something that they could endure. Therefore, they did not dare to have any thoughts of killing the other party and snatching the treasure since the beginning. At the very most, they would attempt to make these young Dao sect disciples afraid of them under the encouragement of their greed. Through this, they would end up gaining something. However, they did not expect that these seemingly young and naive Dao sect disciples to be so ferocious. Each one that appeared was more ferocious than the previous. Earlier, Ying Xiaoxiao's group had at least properly talked to them. However, the fellow who had just appeared had directly tossed out such unreasonable words. "Brat, aren't you too arrogant?" Liu Dao coldly laughed. They were rather much older than Lindong's group and had gained some reputation over the years. However, Lindong's act of throwing such ruthless words towards them at this moment caused fury to appear in their hearts. However, Lindong completely ignored their cold laughter. After 10 breaths, he finally slowly raised his eyes, which contained a surging murderous intent, and said, 10 breaths time is up. A black light flashed and appeared behind Lindong the moment his voice sounded out. Finally, it transformed into a demon corpse and stood behind him. Demon corpse. Many exclamations were heard when this demon corpse appeared. Even Ying Xiaoxiao, Wang Yang and the rest had shocked faces as they stared at the black figure behind Lindong. After which, they involuntarily looked towards the demon corpse that was trapped within the light array as they started to breathe a little more deeply. They were truly unable to imagine that Lindong had not only dealt with the demon corpse that was chasing them, but had even taken control of it. Liu Dao's group looked at the demon corpse behind Lindong with shocked eyes. They immediately inhaled a breath of cold air. Everyone could not help but take 2 steps back. "Ha ha, brother, please do not be anxious. We are only passing by." The expressions of Liu Dao's group had transformed in an instant. They exchanged looks with each other before they hurriedly cried out in embarrassment. Their bodies carefully pulled back while they cursed quietly in their hearts. Could it be that the current younger generation of these super sects was already this frightening? Get lost. Lindong gazed at the fellows whose expressions had changed. He did not have the mood to tangle with them. Immediately, his eyes turned cold as he snapped chillingly. After hearing this snarl from Lindong, Liu Dao's group no longer dared to be furious in their hearts. They hurriedly nodded and led their subordinates to turn around and flee. They were not fools. Given this situation, they could forget about getting a share of the reward. Moreover, if they angered such a monster, it was likely that their group would suffer serious injuries and deaths. Ying Xiaoxiao and the rest watched as the group, that had previously pestered them endlessly, flee dejectedly at this moment. All of them involuntarily felt somewhat helpless. It was likely that they were speechless in the face of such characters. "Are you all right?" Lindong turned around after frightening away those fellows. The icy cold cruel aura on his face slowly disappeared. He smiled at Ying Xiaoxiao's group and asked, "We're fine. It is just that we were a little unlucky. One would normally not meet such irksome fellows. However, they were quite strong. For 9 yuan Nirvana stage." Ying Xiaoxiao spoke somewhat helplessly. "They are all some old and experienced fellows in Eastern Xian region. It is not surprising for them to possess such strength." Lindong smilingly said. After all, those 4 from earlier were all middle-aged. After having trained for so many years, it would not be overly strange for them to possess such a strength. "Lindong, this demon corpse of yours, you have refined it into a puppet." Wang Yang's eyes were surprised and could not help but ask as he watched the demon corpse that was following closely behind Lindong. "I have used my Yuan spirit to control it." Lindong smiled and said. Ying Xiaoxiao's and Wang Yang's expressions changed slightly when they heard these words. It was likely that they clearly understood the risk of such a method. However, when they saw Lindong's unworried appearance, they knew that the latter likely possessed his own means to avoid this kind of danger. Big sis, have you not finished off this demon corpse yet? Ying Huan also came forward. She looked at the demon corpse striking wildly within the light formation as she said. Yes, the defense of this fellow is too frightening. We are able to trap it, but we cannot finish it off. Ying Xiaoxiao laughed bitterly. Remove the formation. I will deal with it. Lindong smiled and said. With his experience from earlier, he was clearly aware of how to deal with this demon corpse that had extremely powerful defenses. Upon hearing this, Ying Xiaoxiao hesitated for a moment before nodding. Since Lindong was able to finish off one demon corpse, it was likely that it would not be too difficult for him to deal with a second one. Immediately, she waved her hand and the Dao sect disciples in the air swiftly withdrew their yuan power, scattering the light array that trapped the demon corpse. Roar! The scarlet color within the eyes of the demon corpse soared when the light formation was scattered. Its body moved and transformed into a black light that charged towards the Dao sect disciples around it. Bang! However, its body had just charged forward when the demon corpse standing behind Lindong also rushed out. The latter was just like a cannonball as it ruthlessly struck the former's body. Immediately, the two directly landed on the ground, smashing the surface and causing an enormous pit to be formed. Two demon corpses frantically tumbled on the ground. Numerous cracks were formed on the ground wherever they tumbled past. Such frightening strength caused quite a number of Dao sect disciples to be quietly speechless. Lindong lowered his head and watched the demon corpses that had tangled together. He curled his hand and a light formation appeared. In the next instant, his body suddenly rushed downwards and directly appeared in front of that demon corpse. After which, he curled his hand and his palm directly slammed onto the dantian at the demon corpse's abdomen. The black color on the dry skin of the demon corpse that possessed a powerful defensive strength swiftly disappeared at this moment. With a push of his palm, the strong defense that caused Ying Xiaoxiao and the rest to feel helpless against was once again penetrated by Lindong. His palm immediately closed and the white light cluster at the demon corpse's dantian was grabbed and pulled out. Done. Ying Xiaoxiao, Wang Yang and all the Dao sect disciples in the air were stunned as they watched this scene. After which, they turned to face each other. They were completely quiet at that moment. It was really impossible for them to imagine that the demon corpse, which did not show any reaction regardless of the violent strikes they threw at it, would actually be dealt with by Lindong in such a simple manner. Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang had stunned faces as their bodies gradually descended. They looked at the white light cluster in Lindong's hand for a while. Soon after, they looked at his hand, which had formed a light array earlier, and fell into a deep thought. It seemed that Lindong had used some sort of technique to break the frightening defense of the demon corpse. Having lost that defense, the demon corpse would appear to be no different from a crab that had lost its shell. Its fighting strength would be reduced. Senior sister Xiao Xiao and senior brother Wang Yang have both stepped into the peak of the 9 yuan nirvana stage. This mysterious lifebone bead has a greater effect for the both of you. Lindong tossed the white light cluster in his hand towards Ying Xiaoxiao. After which, he threw the mysterious lifebone bead that he had obtained earlier towards Wang Yang. Although this mysterious lifebone bead also had some use to Lindong, it would not be as effective for him compared to being consumed by the Ying Xiaoxiao duo. If these two had enough luck, they might even be able to touch the door towards the mysterious life stage. In this way, their fighting strength would undoubtedly soar. This would be quite a great help when they subsequently met the members of Yuan Gate. Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang received the mysterious lifebone beads. They were momentarily startled before they hesitated and said, "You have the greatest credit in subduing the demon corpse. I don't need it. I'm good with receiving this thing." Lindong patted the second demon corpse that had been subdued. Although his Yuan spirit was only able to control one demon corpse, leaving another one as spare was not a bad thing. Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang only nodded when they saw Lindong insist. They flipped their hands and kept the mysterious lifebone beads. Senior Sister Xiao Xiao, it seems that the copper cauldron that I have bought from Unique Devil City a couple of days ago contains an ancient treasure map. Can you identify which part of Unique Devil region it is located at? A thought subsequently crossed his mind when Lindong kept that demon corpse into his Qiankun bag. His mental energy surged out and formed a map in front of him. Ancient treasure map. Ying Xiao Xiao and Wang Yang were momentarily startled. Their eyes swiftly gathered towards the light map. However, a stunned expression quickly surfaced on their faces. Junior brother Lindong, this ancient treasure map, could it be the Burning Sky ancient stash? Ying Xiao Xiao asked. Oh. This time around, it was Lindong's turn to be startled. He had not even said the name of this ancient treasure. How could Ying Xiao Xiao know about it? Does Senior Sister Xiao Xiao know about this Burning Sky ancient stash? An ominous feeling surged out from Lindong's heart. Originally, he thought that no one knew about this thing. How could? There are quite a number of ancient stashes within Unique Devil region. This Burning Sky ancient stash is an extremely renowned one. As for this map of yours, it is likely that it does not possess much value. This is because many people know the location of the Burning Sky ancient stash. Lindong's expression immediately turned a little ugly when he heard Ying Xiao Xiao's words. The thing that he thought of as a treasure was actually trash? However, everyone might know its location, but no one has been able to successfully open the Burning Sky ancient stash till this day. Additionally, Yuan Gate has also targeted this Burning Sky ancient stash for many years. They will definitely head there this time around. To still decide to head there even after failing so many times, it is possible that they already possess some confidence in opening it. Open the Burning Sky ancient stash. Lindong frowned deeply. His heart pounded as he suddenly recalled the mysterious light token that had been melted from the copper cauldron. We should also head to the Burning Sky ancient stash. Ying Xiao Xiao and the rest were slightly stunned when they heard Lindong suddenly uttering these words after pondering for a moment. The Burning Sky ancient stash is one of the few extremely renowned ancient stashes in this Unique Devil region. Many super sects had targeted it over the years. The Burning Sky ancient stash will definitely be the place that attracts the most people during this great sect competition. We will likely end up meeting Yuan Gate if we head there. Ying Xiao Xiao voiced her thoughts. It doesn't matter if we meet them. It is only a matter of time. Moreover, if they are also interested in the Burning Sky ancient stash, it is likely that they will attack only after they have obtained the ancient stash. Lindong smiled faintly and said, That's right, there are quite a number of ancient stashes in Unique Devil region, and there are also many powerful individuals from within these super sects. Have none of them tried to scout this place? Lindong suddenly thought of something. Regardless of how strong those ancient stash seals were, people like Ying Xuanzi or the Yuan Gate sect masters should be able to brute force their way in. Unique Devil region is a forbidden ground for experts of that level. Not only will the demon chi riot because of their entry, but the ancient formation that seals this place will also reject them. Ying Xiao Xiao explained. The weaker one is, the weaker the rejection of this place would be. This is one of the key reasons why those super sect experts do not appear in Unique Devil region. There is actually such a reason. Lindong came to a sudden comprehension. Does Senior Sister Xiao Xiao think that we should not head to that Burning Sky ancient stash? Lindong asked once again. After all, Ying Xiao Xiao was currently the commander. They could only move if she agreed. Since you have already decided to head to the Burning Sky ancient stash, we will do as you say. However, you should also be prepared. If we end up meeting Yuan Gate, the Yuan Gate's three little kings cannot be compared to those fellows from earlier. Ying Xiao Xiao mused for a moment before gently nodding her head. She stared at Lindong and replied. Senior Sister Xiao Xiao, you can be rest assured. Although I dare not guarantee the safety of every disciple in our Dao sect, if Yuan Gate really dares to attack, at least 2 of the 3 little kings will die. Lindong softly said. There was a great disparity between his level of strength on the exterior when compared to the 3 little kings. However, if he was really forced until the extent where he would have to risk his life and unleash all of his cards, he had the confidence to kill 2 of the 3 little kings. Everyone could see an evil look suddenly rising onto Lindong's face when the latter uttered these words. Immediately, their hearts felt both a chill and some excitement. They were aware that Lindong would not boast for no reason. Since he dared to utter such words, there was definitely some ground behind such confidence. Senior brother Lindong, please be rest assured. In the worst case, we will engage in a bloody battle with them. If they wish to step on the face of our Dao sect, we will also break one of their legs. All the Dao sect disciples around spoke with flushed red faces. That's right. In any case, I have long been irritated by looking at those damn people. Ying Xiaoxiao could only helplessly shake her head when she saw the excited faces of these Dao sect disciples. After which, she softly said, since that is the case, we should leave immediately. If I am not wrong, the Yuan Gate disciples will hurry towards the Burning Sky Ancient Stash after entering Unique Devil region. Therefore, we should also quickly head there. Understood. Lindong nodded. Let's go. Ying Xiaoxiao did not say any more when she saw this. Her body moved and she transformed into a light figure that rushed outwards. Lindong, Wang Yang, Ying Huan, and the many Dao sect disciples immediately followed behind her. After which, they turned into a large cluster of bright lights that bolted towards the deeper parts of the wastelands. The Burning Sky Ancient Stash was situated at the middle area of Unique Devil region. There was quite a great distance from Unique Devil region's outer parts to it. Even though Lindong's group traveled at their fastest pace, they would need 10 days to reach their destination. Because they were already a little behind Yuan Gate, the Dao sect disciples even traveled at night during these 10 days. Despite taking such actions, the results were not very substantial. This was because there were extremely troublesome demonic monsters within Unique Devil region. The only thing that caused Lindong's group to sigh in relief was that the demonic monsters they met were not as difficult to deal with as those demon corpses. Otherwise, even though Lindong possessed a method that could specially deal with them, it would be extremely difficult for the ordinary Dao sect disciples. Moreover, the cooperation between the Dao sect disciples was becoming increasingly better while they traveled and battled demonic monsters. Moreover, they no longer lost their heads and panicked like they did initially. Clearly, only a true battle would enrich one's experiences. Lindong's group also met with quite a number of treasure seekers who had entered Unique Devil region while they traveled. Although the strength of these people were not considered weak, no one dared to head over and find trouble with them like Liu Dao's group. After all, not everyone were as bold as Liu Dao's group. The Dao sect's prestige was quite a great deterrent to them. Other than these treasure seekers, Lindong's group also met some disciples from other sects that possessed quite a great reputation in Eastern Xian region. Although these sects were not as powerful as Dao sect, they could also be considered to be ranked amongst the super sects. Hence, some conflict occurred due to a variety of reasons when they met. However, a battle ultimately did not erupt. It was likely that both parties were able to restrain themselves. 10 days gradually flowed past amidst their hurried travels. After experiencing quite a number of tough battles, the Dao sect members had finally stepped into the middle area of Unique Devil region. Earth Hall disciples, form a defensive formation. Flood Hall disciples, hold back the remaining demonic monsters. Sky Hall and Desolate Hall disciples, attack. Hundreds of light figures were suspended in the air within this chaotic ground. Their positions were extremely orderly. They were able to advance and withdraw in a rather well-coordinated manner. A lady was issuing orders in an orderly fashion a short distance away. Bang bang. Majestic and formidable fluctuations swiftly spread apart in the sky. Wave after wave of ferocious attacks came in all directions as they ruthlessly landed on the 10 enormous dark black demonic monster below, which were being trapped by a light array. An attack of such numbers directly flattened these monsters as fresh blood scattered in all directions. Lindong and a couple of others were hovering in the air. They lowered their heads to watch the intense battle below before nodding involuntarily. After all, they were all disciples of Dao sect. The cooperation that they had, which was originally not bad, was honed over these 10 days of actual battle until the Tao sect's group fighting strength had finally taken shape. The battle below ended quickly. After which, some disciples landed and began to swiftly clear the battleground. The remaining disciples landed and sat on the ground to replenish their exhausted yuan power. At this moment, Ying Xiaoxiao had also rushed over from a short distance away. She looked at Lindong and the others before raising her head to watch the dark sky in the north. She said, "In another half a day, we will reach the area where the burning sky ancient stash is located." "Oh, we're already reaching." Lindong's eyes immediately became focused as he said, "No wonder there are more and more people appearing nearby. Yes, the allure of the burning sky ancient stash is extremely great. Even those from the 8 super sects will travel here from all directions. Moreover, there will be even more people from other factions. All of them will gather outside the burning sky ancient stash." Ying Xiaoxiao nodded and explained. "From a certain point of view, the great sect competition will also officially begin here. The people from the other super sects will also come here." Lindong smiled slightly. After which, he raised his head and looked towards the distant black sky. The area in a distance appeared to be silently burning. After having experienced the previous dullness, it was finally going to become lively. "I truly look forward to it." The Tao sect disciples once again stood up after half an hour of recuperation. Without further ado, their large group once again transformed into a cluster of lights that whistled towards the northern sky. The black land swiftly pulled back while they flew. This continued for around half an hour before someone suddenly discovered that the darkness below had begun to weaken. A dark red color replaced it on the land, appearing like a burning flame. This scene caused everyone's minds to be jolted. They knew that they had reached the burning sky ancient stash. A large cluster of lights once again crossed a black mountain range before them. Finally, they slowly came to a stop in the air. Numerous fiery hot eyes looked to their front. Lindong's figure also came to a halt at this moment. He lifted his head, only to see an indescribably large bright red basin in front of him. If one was to look down at this basin from the sky, one would discover that it was actually an extremely large handprint. From the looks of it, it appeared as though a god had left an imprint of his palm on the ground. At this moment, countless rushing wind sounds appeared above this handprint basin. At a glance, a sea of densely packed people that stretched on endlessly could be seen. From the looks of it, it seemed a majority of the many people who had entered Unique Devil region had gathered in this place. The temptation of the burning sky ancient stash really did live up to its reputation. It seems that most of the people who entered Unique Devil region this time have come here. Ying Xiaoxiao watched the locust-like human figures shuttling within the enormous basin and said as surprise flashed across her eyes. Although there were quite a number of people who came here in past competitions, the numbers have never reached such a scale. It seems that everyone has come in hopes of getting a share after hearing that Yuan Gate seems to be confident in opening the burning sky ancient stash. Lindong nodded slightly. There was some surprise within his heart. Although he was unaware of just what use the light tablet formed from the melted copper cauldron had, it was definitely related to the burning sky ancient stash. However, could it be that Yuan Gate had also obtained something similar to this light tablet of his? Let's head over to. Ying Xiaoxiao's eyes looked towards the middle of the bright red basin. After which, her body rushed forward while Lindong and the rest immediately followed behind. After approaching this middle area, Lindong's group could clearly sense quite a number of powerful hidden presences begin to appear. It seemed that this place was truly filled with hidden experts. There were quite a number of 9 Yuan Nirvana stage experts present. As expected, the other super sects have all arrived. Lindong's eyes suddenly swept over certain spots in the central area. He could see a few large groups of people. These people were all disciples of the other super sects. Even those from 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace were amongst them. After the appearance of this large group of disciples that included Lindong, many eyes from the area began to shift over. However, mocking expressions that suggested that they were watching a show involuntarily flashed across the faces of these people when they saw the former. Everyone knew that Yuan Gate would definitely be present at this burning sky ancient stash. From the way they saw it, these Dao sect disciples, who had an extremely deep grudge with Yuan Gate, should think of ways to avoid this place instead. However, from what they could see, it was obvious that the Dao sect disciples did not do so. Hence, the Dao sect disciples would definitely meet the Yuan Gate disciples. A good show would likely be unavoidable at that time. Its big brother Lindong. Su Ruo, who was with the 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace disciples, gazed at Dao sect disciples flying over from far away. Joy immediately surged on her face. The Dao sect disciples have also come here. Ling Qingzhu also raised her head and looked in the same direction. Immediately, she knitted her brows slightly. After which, her gaze turned towards most central spot in the area. A large group of people were quietly seated there and gave off a faint but astonishing undulation. Those were the disciples from Yuan Gate. I wonder just what these fellows are thinking. Don't they know that Yuan Gate would also be here? And yet they still swaggered over in such a manner. Do they really think that Yuan Kang and the two are kind individuals? A handsome man stood behind Ling Qingzhu. He was called Wu Kun and was also one of the top experts amongst the 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace younger generation. He had seen the confrontation between Lindong and Lei Qian at treasure-seeking district back then. Similarly, he had also seen the subsequent exchange between Lindong and Ling Qingzhu. Although the latter still appeared indifferent, he was able to sense an unusual fluctuation under Ling Qingzhu's calmness due to him being acquainted with her for many years. This fluctuation of Ling Qingzhu's state of mind caused Wu Kun to feel somewhat uncomfortable. This was because he was clearly aware that such a situation rarely occurred for Ling Qingzhu. Big brother Lindong is definitely not a reckless person. He will give serious consideration to whatever action he takes. Since he dares to bring the Dao sect disciples over, he is definitely not afraid of Yuan Gate making things difficult for them. Su Ruo involuntarily retorted after Wu Kun spoke. The opponents that Lindong had met in the ancient battlefield back then also far surpassed them in terms of strength. There were many people who were gloating just like how it was at this moment. Each time, however, that young man, who had merely come from a low-rank empire, was able to survive with a smile on his face. Behind him was a bloody aura that rose to the skies. Although Su Ruo had currently joined 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace, Su Ruo still believed that the skinny figure, who had led her and her elder brother to walk out from Wanxiang City and eventually stood at the peak of the 100 Empire Mountain, was the one person in this world that could not be shaken. She firmly believed that no one in this world would truly be able to knock down that figure. Don't tell me that you think that he will be able to exchange blows with the 3 little kings. Wu Kun smiled faintly. He had seen the face-off between Lindong and Lei Qian back then. Although the latter was forced to withdraw in a dejected manner at that time, it was due to his earlier boasting. If the two were to directly face each other, Wu Kun did not believe that Lindong would truly be able to contend against Lei Qian. Su Ruo was stunned for a moment. The current her was after all no longer that timid young lady from back then. Therefore, she was clearly aware of the strength of the 3 little kings from Yuan Gate. However, after some hesitation, she seriously nodded and said, "Big brother Lindong is not afraid of them." Perhaps. Wu Kun shrugged his shoulders noncommittally. Given his status, there were seldom any disciples within 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace who dared to argue with him. However, this Su Ruo in front of him was clearly not within this category. Although she had joined 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace for less than a year, the improvement in her strength could be considered frightening. Moreover, he was also aware that if the latter was to really go all out, it was likely that only Ling Qingzhu amongst the younger generation of the entire 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace would be able to subdue her. Ling Qingzhu quietly listened to the argument between the two. The extent to which Su Ruo worshipped Lindong caused even her to be a little surprised. She could be considered to have some understanding of this junior sister whose reputation within 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace was currently soaring. Although her character was weak when she had just arrived, her heart clearly had a certain persistence. Although Su Ruo was usually quite respectful towards her, it was far from the blind worship of Lindong that she had. Of course, being unaware of what happened during the 100 Empire War back then, she was naturally unable to understand this. The pair of siblings, who had been chased after by others to the point of not daring to even enter Wanxiang City, had met 3 people at a bonfire during that icy cold night. At that moment, the gentle and friendly smile on the face of the skinny young man was akin to salvation towards this pair of siblings, who had almost fallen into despair. The Dao sect disciples slowly landed in the middle area before the eyes from all over the place. Their eyes briefly swept around and coincidentally looked towards a spot right at the front. It was the place where the Yuan Gate disciples were. We have indeed encountered them. Lindong narrowed his eyes. There was little surprise within them. Clearly, he had expected such a situation. Ying Xiao gave a hand signal. The many Dao sect disciples began to sit down and recuperate. However, there was caution within their eyes. They were scattered apart in an orderly manner. If anything happened, they would be able to immediately form a formation and meet their enemy in battle. The effect of the training over the past 10 days was clearly rather substantial. Everyone be careful. Lindong softly whispered to Ying Huan beside him. Yes. Ying Huan nodded. She spread her hand and a jade-green zither appeared in a flash. Her appearance was also that of someone waiting cautiously. Soon after Lindong's group had landed, numerous rushing wind sounds suddenly appeared. Lindong raised his head, only to be momentarily startled. This was because that person who had come was actually Xueling from Sword Sect, whom they had met some time before. Lindong's group frowned slightly when they saw him. Could it be that this fellow was still bearing a grudge towards them because of the matter from last time? It's surprising that you have all managed to escape from the demon corpses. Your abilities are not bad. Xueling landed from the air. Immediately, his eyes looked towards Lindong's group with some surprise as he laughed. Seeing that Xueling did not appear to be hostile towards them, Lindong's expression also warmed a little. He smilingly said, "Brother Xue is also quite skilled. Those 2 demon corpses were not easy to deal with. We were not able to deal with them. We were helplessly chased for a long time, and having no other choice, we drew them towards a place with many people before secretly fleeing." Xueling spoke in a helpless manner. Lindong's group immediately exchanged glances when they heard this. This fellow was really ruthless. When he realized that he could not resolve the matter himself, he had actually used others as a diversion. Those whom the disaster had been lured towards were truly unfortunate. No one knew if they managed to finish off the 2 demon corpses in the end. However, all of you are quite bold. You are aware that Yuan Gate is here, yet you have still come. Xueling looked towards the direction of Yuan Gate in the distance. After which, he said, "On the account of you having the intention to share the mysterious lifebone beads equally last time, I shall remind you as a friend that Yuan Gate will definitely come and clear this place later. All of you should be careful. Give in a little if there is no other choice. Do not let things end up like the last great sect competition. Thanks." Lindong cupped his hands together towards Xueling and smilingly said. Xueling cupped his hands together and did not speak any further. He led a couple of Sword Sect disciples to return to the area where they had been at. Lindong's eyes suddenly narrowed after Xueling left. This was because he saw 2 disciples stepping away from the Yuan Gate area. After which, they walked towards 2 factions that seemed to be considered super sects, but had yet to reach the level of the 8 great super sects. Soon after, the 2 groups began to stand up. They slowly marched towards the Dao sect disciples in plain sight. From the looks of it, they bore ill intent. Getting someone else to do your dirty work, huh? Lindong lowered his eyelids. A cold gleam bubbled within his eyes. This video will end here.